Salam everyone, my name is Sufyan and I'm the knowledge head for the MSA at UIUC. Today I'm very excited to host this discussion alongside brother Habeeb and Dawood, both amazing people who helped me develop into the person I am today. Um, Before we begin, I'd like to start off by advertising our fundraiser. This Ramadan, the UIUC MSA has partnered with ICNA Relief to help raise donations for their hunger prevention program. The organization has 2 local food pantries serving hundreds of families every month, and in Ramadan, they provide iftar and meals for both Muslims and non-Muslims alike. These last 10 nights of Ramadan are especially important to give back to our communities, so please consider donating. The Shura members will give the link and information to donate in the chats. Okay, so now for the main event. Today we have 2 very special speakers for you guys. Both have made many strides to help out the Muslim youth in the Chicago area, and I have been lucky enough to experience their wisdom firsthand. So I'll start off with introducing Dawood Ali. Brother Dawood is an alumni from our very own UIUC campus, graduating with a master's in mechanical engineering. Today he works at Northwestern University as a senior computing services manager. However, despite how busy he may seem, he has always made time in the summer for the Muslim youth camp. For decades now, Dawood has attended MYC, an organization dedicated to fostering a positive environment for the expression of religion and Muslim youth across the Chicago area. Working his way up from a camper, he has been the primary camp director for MYC for over 10 years now, continuing to help Muslim youth navigate the increasingly confusing world we live within. Now, Habeeb Quadri. Brother Habeeb is an alumni from the University of Illinois at Chicago and was president of UIC's very own MSA. He graduated with a master's from Wayne Student University in Educational Leadership, a degree he has centered his very life around. For years, he was the principal of the Muslim Community Center Academy, MCCA, for which he was recognized with a National Distinguished Principal Award from the National Association of Elementary School Principals. Now he is the superintendent of MCCA, an organization dedicated to providing top-notch secular education complemented by contemporary coursework in Islamic studies designed to help build and refine character amongst its students. So onto our topic of discussion for today. Our topic of discussion for today will revolve around balancing Islam in our everyday lives. As college students, it is especially important for us to incorporate Islam in our busy lives, as hard as it may seem. Both of our speakers have had tremendous experience with this themselves, so inshallah, they will be able to provide us with valuable insight on this topical matter. If anyone has any questions during the event, feel free to use the chat to ask questions. Shura will send me any questions people have. Now the speakers will open up by giving a short lecture on their own personal experience with college and Islam, and we'll start with Dawood.
All right, thank you, Sufyan. I don't know if this is going to be a lecture per se, but you know, I went to UIUC in the late '80s and the early '90s, and lived on campus, of course. And one of the challenges that I faced was being a Muslim in a predominantly non-Muslim environment, particularly as a youngster, where everyone around me has a kind of a different concept of what a fun time means, and so and trying to navigate that. You know, when I had, of course, my Muslim friends and attended the masjid for many of the prayers. But you know, most of the people that I studied with were non-Muslims. Most of the people that I worked with were non-Muslims. You know, as an undergrad and as a grad student, and you know, when everyone's going out for a drink after work or after class, you know, do I go or do I not? And you know, there was a time when I went, and there was a time when I decided, you know, I don't want to do that anymore. You know, nothing is really static. And then there's the of course the girls on campus that I've had to deal with and interact with and form relationships with or break relationships with, and it's, you know, keeping hold of my identity as a Muslim and the values that I held is what really guided me through the whole process, and it allowed me to really evaluate where I was when I came to any particular situation. You know, if I'm in a one-on-one conversation with a girl, or if I'm you know, across the table with someone who's got a beer in their hand, and you know, it in some ways I did the right things. In some ways, I could have done a better job, but I got through the whole process intact, and alhamdulillah, I've learned from the process, and it's shaped me it shaped me where I am today. And a lot of the things that I did back then on college, I've used them in the workplace now, because it's almost the same thing. It's, instead of after class, it's after work. People still go into bars. People still go into to have drinks at people's places. If there's a get together at someone's place, there's always going to be some alcohol involved. And it's going to go from 3 o'clock in the afternoon to 9 o'clock at night. Well, where am I going to do my salah? And so all those things that I learned in college, I have to keep doing them when I'm in the workforce. And it's always a challenge. It's never really static. That's one thing to keep in mind. It's always changing, and you and I are always changing. We're getting better sometimes, we're getting worse sometimes, and to give ourselves a break, when we make a mistake. That's pretty much it.
Awesome. Okay. Now, Habib will also give his little intro. So,
first, jazakallah khair to all of you guys for giving us this opportunity. So I just want to kind of give you guys to think about like 4 things, right? So 2 letters, but I'm going to give you some acronyms for them. And think about this. First and foremost, as Brother Dawood brought up, right? It's ongoing, right? You're going to have your ups and downs, but there are 4 areas that, especially I realized from high school on, you start preparing yourself all these opportunities or situations for life. And it still doesn't stop, right? So that's what I want to tell you. What that challenges you are having now doesn't stop when all of us get to your corporate America world or any other field. But the 4 areas that you want to have, especially in the college level, is what? First and foremost, education. What are your goals for education, and how are you going to go ahead and balance them, right? So that E for education is very important. And then who are going to be people who are going to help you do well in school? Who are going to individuals that, and where are you going to be? Where are you going to stay? Where are you going to study? All these play a big part. Second thing is faith, right? One of the big things where your parents, when they're sending you there, like, hey, great, we're excited you went to a top-notch university. The question they're also going to make sure is like, hey, I want to make sure you do well, but how do you make sure you still maintain your faith? So those questions are going to happen from some of your mandatory things Allah asks you for, sometimes like salah, your 5 daily prayers, to the social issues, which is the biggest challenge, right, in college life and high school life and even beyond, is making the right decisions from, hey, how, having those relations with the opposite gender, in the sense of what's proper, what's the parameters, what's okay, what is not okay, to, hey, hanging out with your third group of things, the third letter, which is another F, is friends, making sure those friends are people who are going to keep you intact in the principles of your faith, but also making sure the goals that you have for your educational experience, right? So you got your education, you have your faith, which plays a big part. The third is your friends. And then the fourth, the people who kind of support you to get there, is your family. And sometimes in college, you forget the family part, because especially all of you who are living at the campus life, sometimes have that once a week phone call, but some of your moms might be calling you every day. I'm not saying Sufyan's mom calls every day, that's not keeping you updated, right? So those are kind of things that I want you guys to realize. So those specific 4 things are challenges that you are going to help navigate. And you're not the only one. All of us at our lives had challenges at college, and even outside of college when you were bachelors, to even when you are married, the idea of, hey, how do we still grow in our field? Could be the same thing. I'm saying maybe education, right? We're all still taking some courses, or weekend or professional development things. To how do we keep our faith still intact at the levels that we are? To making sure we still have the right friends. That could be colleagues at work that could help benefit you, to people who might hurt you, to people who are just friends, who are just friends in your community. That could be people who bring you closer to God and who won't bring you to class. And the last thing is family, right? Because as you get to this level, your family expands, because you have your own family to keep up with your relationship with your parents, your siblings, your cousins. So these are just kind of 4 things that I think that come as some things I want you guys to realize, and saying, and hopefully in the Q&A we'll kind of discuss more, are the challenges that all of us have gone through and will go through. And we just want you to realize you're not the only one. And this is where we have to come together and have something like MSA that could talk about all these 4 and help support all of us.
Awesome. All right. So I guess we can move on to the active discussion part. So you guys have submitted some questions that I've kind of worked into discussion-based topics. So we'll start with the first one. A very topical matter in today's society involves the impact social media has on our mental health. I'm sure everyone here, me included, has dealt with the many problems social media may come with. Personally, there are times where I become more engaged in other people's perceptions of me rather than feeling good or happy about myself. And that's really easy to get caught up in and get consumed by. But unfortunately, there seems to be some sort of taboo in the Islamic community around discussing mental health and discussing the problems that may come with it. So how can we as Muslims help to overcome this unfortunate taboo topic today? If either of you guys want to.
Call on somebody, Sufyan.
Okay, we'll start with Habeeb.
Oh, okay. So first and foremost, this very excellent question. First of all, I really want to, mental, health is so important, and especially because a lot of times people, especially in our community, have this taboo. I want to first clear up something, and I just had last year, I wrote an article about this because we've had in the United States and Muslim communities about like 5 to 6, suicides, and that's in one extreme. But there's other challenges with mental health, anxiety, and other places. I want you to understand that when you have stuff like some form of any mental health issue, it is not a lack of iman. I want you to get that very clear. This does not mean, oh my God, God doesn't love me. That doesn't mean, oh my God, I might not be a good Muslim. No, challenges happen for all. And sometimes it's due to what? A health issue, which could be genetics, where you might have serotonin levels which are very low, and that could be genetically where someone in the family or extended family had it. So that mostly happens at 18, 19, where it starts clicking. Sometimes it could become you can have mental health issues due to a trauma that could happen when you were young, or sometimes it could just be in life. Something just happens and then not how to cope with it. So I wanted to first get that very clear, because I think this is very important, that this is not in any way an issue because of you. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, can faith help in navigating to understand sometimes challenge that people have? No doubt about it. But the other thing is that making sure you get the proper support. So at universities, sometimes they have yours, Illinois, I don't know what I forgot the names of them, but they have like these help centers,
Yeah.
and then you could go to and get the support that you need, because sometimes you have to speak to individuals who are trained in this. And the only reason why I say this is because not every sheikh is trained in working with people with mental health. They could give some support, but the idea of making sure the individual that could kind of help you, coach you through whatever those challenges are, from anxiety to, hey, completely feeling down, or just dealing with a loss that just happened right now, or trauma that just happened. And if you don't take care of it, it could cause some specific thing. So, and that's why when those challenges are happening, I want you to realize you never lose hope. Never lose hope in Allah, because at the end, Allah will forgive any sin, right? As long as you don't associate anyone with Allah. So the idea is that don't worry about, oh my God, Allah hates me, I can't do this. There's something that is wrong with me, to, hey, there might be some challenges I have. Where can I get the support from a spiritual perspective, but also from a medical perspective also. So I just want to kind of keep that in mind, in the sense of those challenges are, and it happens, and all of us go through it. I myself went through cancer, right? But if it wasn't a mindset, right? They tell you the first thing about cancer, if it's all about mind game, it's your mindset. If you come in positively, you'll do much more. And research shows that if you come in positive and deal with the situations, you're more likely to recover quicker. They're just from statistics they showed than some others, right? And then faith plays a part. So I think that by itself, it kind of shows how important the positive attitude in anything. And if you are not having positive attitudes, getting the support you need to make sure that happens.
Awesome.
Yeah, I agree with all that. The value of a mental health professional is really high. Something that most people don't understand about mental about getting therapy is that it's really just a conversation between you and the therapist. This is a third party that doesn't have any vested interest in you, but they're trained to look for certain clues in your behavior and the things that you say to help give you insight into things that you're doing or things that you're saying that you might not be aware of. I mean, for example, I've been seeing a mental health therapist for the past 6 months or so. Everyone around me told me I needed to see one. I've been putting it off and putting it off. You know, I felt the same taboo. I don't want to go. You know, I don't want someone telling me and someone psychoanalyzing me. You know, but it didn't end up being like that at all. You know, it's really a conversation, and you know, she asked some questions. I was able to answer from my own experiences, and I said, well, did you consider that this might be a possible source of that problem? You know, and I discovered very quickly some underlying things that have been going on in my head for decades literally, that I was really completely unaware of, and it really helped me understand me. And that's really the goal of mental health, to help you understand yourself. Um, and I echo everything that Habeeb said about mental health. On the subject of social media, something that, you know, social media is a tool, you know, and there's nothing good or bad about a tool. What's good or bad about the tool is how you use it. The thing that we have to remember about social media is that it is designed to create a bubble around you, a bubble that consists of your friends and your viewpoints, as determined by an algorithm that whoever the social media provider has designed. And so, you know, it's going to echo back to you all of the same things that you already believe and reinforce them, for the most part. And for people that you admire, it's going to have their stories and their images, and people generally don't post negative things about themselves. They only post the positive things about themselves. And if the only thing you're seeing is positive things about all the people that you admire, or the people that you associate with, and you know in your own life that that's not the case in your own life, well, you're going to get down on yourself. And that's kind of the problem that social media can inflict upon each and every one of us. And so we really have to be mindful of that when we're consuming social media, that it's not an accurate reflection of reality. It's the bubble that we've created around ourselves, that has been algorithmically created. And so if you're aware of that, then yeah, social media can be a pretty useful thing. But if you're not aware of it, you know, it can lead to many of the problems that people that people have.
So, Shiva, can I just add one thing to that, which brought up was an awesome
Yeah,
point?
yeah, of course.
That, especially in it's like when me and Dawood, when we grew up, there was nothing even like this, right? It would just be face to face, hey, how you doing? Hey, good job, kind of thing. And what's happened is there's research now in the sense of that likes, and when you post something and people to respond, it's a dopamine hit. It's the same thing like a drug, where you just need that fix. And when sometimes you're like, why didn't someone reply yet? Why didn't they say it was great? Hey, is there something wrong with me? And then what happens is sometimes what they do, you're perceiving about yourself, which just kind of gets worried, because you're like, first of all, oh my God, look, everyone's doing this, and how this person got so many likes. Why am I not getting it? Something wrong about me? Then some people might just peruse really quick, like it's great, but they didn't put a response. And it gives some people to be very self-conscious about themselves. And that's why I think it's very important. And especially if someone's going through already some tough time, mental illness, this could only help facilitate some of that downfall. I wouldn't say downfall, but that struggles that they have, right? And then that's why I think it's so important that it's great to have. It's a great tool, but like anything, it's a balance, right? And we're talking today about everything has to be a balance. Your friends got to be a balance. Faith is a balance, right? You know, and that's the beauty of Allah. And so I just want to realize, even the social media, you have to. If you're waking up and the first thing you do is not even say SubhanAllah, I will do, or pray, and you got to check your phone, like what the next message. Just something to think about. Or the last thing you have to do is look at your Facebook before you go to sleep. Something to think about. If you're walking out of your class and the first thing you have to do is check out social media, something to think about. Again, balance it, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala help all of us out.
Awesome. Brother Dawood, do you have anything to add to that? Or
No, that's good.
all right. So going off of this, can you guys discuss how religious practices can be used in managing the stress that you go through in the college experience? Like, there's a lot of issues you have to deal with, such as all these new stressors, such as peer pressure to fit in, anxiety due to our exams and classes, and stuff like that. So, Brother Dawood, we'll start with you.
So when I'm thinking about the stresses that I experienced when I was in college, and I imagine a lot of you are going through, um, the one thing that they all have in common is that these experiences are invoking a kind of fear response in each and every one of us. We have in the social situations, we have fear of rejection. With the people that are implicitly or explicitly pressuring us to do something, we don't want to let them down. We have that fear of isolation. We have the desire to fit in. Our exams are coming up. We're afraid we're not going to do very well. A lot of these things have their roots in fear of something. And one thing to keep in mind about fear is that fear is the absence of trust. There's something that's not being trusted. If I'm anxious about an exam, well, why am I anxious about it? What am I afraid of? Did I not prepare adequately? Did I not attend? Did I not pay attention to classes? The fear is very real. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just how are we going to pay attention to it? How is it going to guide our actions? Maybe it's an indication I need to study some more. I need to pay attention a little bit better. If I'm in a social situation and I'm being pressured to do something that I'm comfortable doing, well, you know what? I'm afraid of something. I'm afraid of letting these people down. But are these people really important enough to me to be able to do what they want to do? Is there something else I should be more aware of? Am I not trusting in my ability? Am I not trusting in God enough? I trust that He's not going to guide me astray. He's told me not to do certain things or to conduct myself in certain situations. Maybe I should trust that that's the right thing to do. And once you start trusting, the fear starts to melt away. I'm gonna start trusting my own abilities. I'm gonna start trusting the instructions that Allah has given me. I'm gonna start trusting the instructions that my parents have given me. My friends that are telling me, yeah, maybe you shouldn't be doing that sort of thing. Maybe I should trust them a little bit more. And we really have to evaluate where it is, and understand that Allah is not going to let us down. If we're feeling isolated, if we're feeling anxious, if we're going down that rabbit hole of depression and, oh, my life sucks, and, oh, that girl is ignoring me, and, oh my God, I didn't do this paper, life is falling apart. Start trusting. I'm capable. I can do this. What's the next step that I have to take? And the prayer is there. We're in the month of fasting, and you go look up the ayahs in fasting. I'm sure each and every one of you has gotten the ayahs over and over again from Surah Baqarah. Read those ayahs. One of them in there says that He is there to listen. Allah is there to listen to your supplications, to listen to your dua. All you have to do is ask. It's upon us to ask. And that asking helps alleviate our fears and helps alleviate our anxiety.
Brother Habeeb, do you have anything to go off of that or anything to add?
Yeah, so I mean, think about it. Look, Allah talks about our purpose of life. I created jinn and man for the purpose of worship. What I want you guys to realize, just being yourself and part of life is also ibadah, right? So the idea is that when you go to school and you make the intention, Ya Allah, I'm going to school so I could learn, so I could get a good job, so I could take care of me and my future family and the community. That is also you getting good deeds for it, right? And I want you to realize that, see, a lot of times when we think we look faith and then life, no. Life is faith. And I want you to come into mind, just to think of something so small, that when you when you just wake up, right? And just the idea of just like, alhamdulillah, that's it. Something so basic that you just thinking Allah, that is hasanat. Like you walking in and you see it from the mirror and you putting, getting your hair all, I mean, mashallah, Sufyan got some good hair, right? And Dawood got some good hair. Me, I got trouble. But just, even looking at yourself and you know how you just say, mashallah, that's hasanat. Even like stepping into the bathroom with left foot, that's good deeds, right? Just going to the bathroom the proper way the Prophet told us, that's hasanat. Eating your food with your right hand and some things we just do, that's also good deeds. And you know what? The idea of trust and which is amazing that Brother Dawood brought up. Allah tells us when you walk out of the house, the dua that you're supposed to say is Bismillah tawakkaltu ala Allah. And Bismillah, in the name of Allah, I put my trust. That's it. You walk out and you're walking out of trust and you're just saying, okay, so now when I'm getting there and I'm going to study, Rabbi zinni ilma. Yeah. And just the idea, you meet someone, sound like them. You're keeping God in mind because you can say, hey, what's up? What's going on? Blah, 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 handshake, boo, 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 whatever the words are. But just using that and say, look, I kept God in mind for a second. And if anyone, I understand even if the struggles are there, but if you could keep those 5 daily prayers and guess what? Even if you pray the 5 days and you say, man, I got these other vices, doesn't matter. Because what you could tell Allah is that, look, at least for 5 times, Allah, even maybe I'm messing up here and there, but I'm coming back to you for a few minutes, right? And just praying. And even if that prayer might be quick in that, but just that idea of just constantly doing it, and you'll see the change. Right. And I want you and think about this. Even right now, you see, like, some of you guys must have saw The Last Dance, right? So I read the 11 Rings book by Phil Jackson last year. And he was just talking about how do you deal with like very tough minded people, right? In my field, working at the university or at the school, there's just a lot of different personalities. So, but one of the things that, he brought up and changed a lot of people was that he made all these players take some time. In this practice once a week, they would meditate. Right? Just to kind of get the other energies out and even for that and just come back to like, okay, it's about you and then have that, right? And then and even in Phil Jackson had this thing about whatever your supreme being or whatever it is, right? Everyone's got to have a specific focus. And I think that's that whole idea. So if you could keep those 5 daily prayers and you will make mistakes. I don't want you to be like, man, I'm a harami, so let me stop everything. No, you just all of us got our mistakes. And Allah's one of the few things where, and you just keep on asking it. And I want you guys to realize in Ramadan, don't limit your ask. When you ask, Ya Allah, give me an exam, no, so Ya Allah, give me 100 on this exam. And if that you get a 90, that's fine. Ya Allah, I don't want a job. I want a job to where it's I don't want just a good job. I want a job that pays me $200,000. Ask. What's wrong with it, right? Ya Allah, I want, I want a spouse that who's gonna make me happy and beautiful, whatever you comments, whatever your things are. Don't limit Allah's mercy, right? And never lose hope. And that's why I just want to keep these in mind. So all these small things that you do throughout the day is also remembering Allah. When you're having language and talking, but you don't cuss, right? You're remembering Allah. So that's why, and you're making your friends, you're picking your friends because you know that this person gets you closer to Allah. That's a hasanah. Right? So all these factors that when you call your mom once a week, right? Not just for food and not for just send some more money and just say assalamu alaikum when you make them happy, that's hasanat. That's how beautiful Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is. And I want to realize all this is ibadah, not just, oh my God, reading a Quran, which is huge. But keeping that, if you could keep some small morning dua zikrs with small, go a long way.
MashaAllah. Okay, so I think we'll move on to the next topic from here. I think that was really comprehensive between the both of you. Okay, so today's secularized society inevitably leads to the knowledge of many topics that may seem contradictory to Islam's values and beliefs. How do you keep your faith strong when you hear something that may be contradictory to Islamic beliefs, yet at the same time seems logical? We'll start with Brother Habeeb. If you want to take a minute to process.
Can you say that question one more time?
Yeah. How do you keep your faith strong when you hear something that may be contradictory to Islamic beliefs, yet at the same time seems logical, like within your own mind?
Oh, okay, gotcha. So I know a lot of times when you take a philosophy class, sometimes science class, those challenges do happen. Look, and what it is, but this is what the beauty of our deen is, right? It's to learn. Right? It's a question. Allah says in the Quran so many times, reflect. So this is not about just kind of have that. So you are going to have a time to just question. Ibrahim alayhi salam?
Yeah, I know.
Ibrahim alayhi salam had Musa alayhi Ibrahim, and Dawood, one of the two, Musa Ibrahim, and I'm going blank. But he had asked Allah, you bring life to death. Let me see it. Then he's like, well, you don't believe that I'm God? No, he goes, no, just take it to another level of just reaffirming, right? And he told him, take a bird, kill it, brought it back to you, right? Just to kind of take it to another level. I believe, but you know how, and there's some things like, my wife's a physician. So she just says, man, sometimes when you do surgeries, you realize only Allah's in control, because you're like, man, this person should not be passing away, and just things happen, right? Or when she was in medical school and they learned about the 2 trimesters of the baby, she goes into medical school, they have that whole ayah there. And so she's like, those reaffirm a little bit more. So it's okay to ask those questions, right? And there are packets. One place I really would, Yaqeen Institute, Omar Suleiman, and they've done a great job. And it's called Yaqeen Conviction. And they're on topics where people have those mind thoughts, where they've been writing articles on, right? From Jonathan Brown, just from Georgetown, Dr. Jonathan Brown, to many shuyukh on various things, the proof of prophethood, the existence of God, right? So, right now I'm doing some work for them for running lesson plans for high school level kids, for some of this, research that they're doing. So I want you to realize, man, I can't believe I'm asking this. Like, no, it's okay, right? And then, but Allah also tells us, and this is the extreme, don't ask questions, because even Allah talks about that Iblis will kind of be like, okay, I know I come from here, but then where does Allah come from, right? There are certain things that you got to be very careful, because then it could just take you to another whole path and just kind of confuse everyone. And that's why you have to see the signs of Allah, to seeing, hey, from the miracles Allah talks about, to the signs Allah talks about in the Quran, from the seawater, salt water, things that were 1,400 years ago, how it's so unknown now, that half our body's made out of water. All these specific things are just other reaffirmed for you as science is catching up to I would never say catch up to Allah, but reaffirming what Allah has told us, right? So I just wanted you to realize, individual, for anyone to have that, don't feel uncomfortable that you're having those questions, but then this is where you go and get guidance and get the right source to get you the answers, right? Inshallah. Allah protect us all.
Yeah, going off of that, I'd have to say that if you are if you're learning something that seems to contradict what you know about Islam, then ask someone about the Islamic viewpoint. Maybe what you understand isn't quite right, and the other person might have something that will educate you even more. I mean, you guys are in a learning institution, and we have to keep our minds wide open as much as we can while we're there. But at the same time, we also want to make an effort to increase our Islamic faith, and not just from not from a history point of view, which is what is mostly what's taught in the university, from an Akhira point of view. Now, what should I believe in? What are some answers to these really common questions that people ask? Why am I doing these things? Why am I rolling up my pants when I do my wudu? It's just, I always did it, and I don't know why, And these things, these questions that people ask, find the answers. Yaqeen is a great place to go. There are many organizations that are online, and many people like Omar Suleiman, Yasser Qadhi, and Abdul Nasser Jangda. There's many of these scholars. Abdurrahman Murphy, he was a counselor at the camp that I was at. And so these guys have gone and gotten some great Islamic learning, and they have podcasts, they've written articles. They can answer a lot of the questions that we have if we feel that we're getting confused by something. They can help reaffirm our own faith. And that story of Ibrahim that Habeeb brought up is a great one, because even Ibrahim, as rock solid as he was in his faith, he had that question. It's you say you can do this, but I'm having trouble comprehending that. and so Allah gave him that example to go by, and it's each and every one of us has that crisis of faith once in a while, in some ways big, or in other ways small. So ask questions. That's the only way you're going to get answers.
That's awesome. I think that was pretty good. I have some follow-up questions for that. So besides just the secularized notion of science and stuff that may contradict Islamic teachings, what tips can you give to someone struggling with their faith yet wants to be stronger in the deen. If you want a minute to think about it, Brother Dawood, that's okay. But yeah.
So if you're struggling with your faith, you really have to ask yourself what you believe in. That's the number one thing. I mean, you really got to boil it down to that. What do you believe? You know, the story of Ibrahim is again very instructive in this, in that he lived in a time of people worshiping various things. You know, they worship the things in front of them and the things in the sky. They were ruled by a tyrant. He challenged the tyrant. You know, he went from place to place. Ibrahim did not have much of a following at all. You know, he was a nomadic preacher, if you will, and so he really had to believe. He really had to rely on his relationship with Allah. And that's where all of us have to go back to. So we ask ourselves, what do we believe in? You know, if I'm questioning my faith, do I believe in God? I mean, that's pretty much the most important question. You know, if I'm struggling with that, that's a reasonable struggle to have. God is invisible. We don't see him. You know, if we're not looking for the signs of his existence, he might as well not even be there. But we have to start looking. You know, the belief in God is fundamental to most of humanity. You know, atheism is a very tiny subset that actually don't believe in the existence of God. And so once you can reaffirm yourself that you believe in God, then you can start taking steps. Well, okay, how is he going to talk to us? You know, is what's being taught in these religions actually real? You know, is this guy named Muhammad 1400 years ago, might he have said some truths at the time? What were they? Look at them from an objective point of view, and start reading, start asking questions. You know, you don't have to ask only Muslims. Ask non-Muslims. Ask people you trust. There's a lot of people out there that have answers, and it's through getting our questions answered that our crisis of faith gets resolved. You know, and it is actually very, very normal for people to have a low degree of faith and a high degree of faith, depending on the situation that they're in. You know, if you used to be high and now you're low, that's normal. If you used to be low and now you're high, that's normal. It's going to go the other way eventually. So keep that in mind. You know, whether through it or ride the wave wherever you're at, and keep asking questions. Keep looking for answers.
Brother Habeeb.
Yeah. And what, you know, in this question, you know, a lot of times when I have the opportunity to work with youth or in universities and stuff, sometimes also when you question God, so you might believe in God, so you might be agnostic, right? But you might be like, well, something's bothering me about Islam. I would say 50, 60% of the time when I've talked to kids, there's always, you're disappointed on someone or some part, and sometimes it's a cultural and not faith. And that's where you got to know your faith better, right? You really need to, I always say, please, if you could just even read one page a day of Quran, Arabic and it's English, and just have that. And when you start reading the stories, you start the Allah's revelation, it starts it starts making sense. Because one of the times where sometimes we get frustrated, we're like, do we really do some reading and research? Not just like I heard it from my dadi, my grandmother, and she just told me, but really understanding the faith. Because I've seen so many people disappointed because, oh, I saw this shit, I thought he was there and he disappointed me, or, you know, my parents are hypocritical and this and that. There are cultural things, right? So that's why when you come back to the core of your faith and knowing Allah, that's what the first 13 years of this deen was, knowing Allah. Right? Like, you know, who Allah is, 99 names, he's the, you know, and all these specific things, his attributes will help you solidify. So I want you guys to realize, having this question, no doubt about it, but really also making sure you are doing your own reading and research and not using some people as your answer to why this religion doesn't make sense, because all of us mistakes. The only person who's perfect or close to perfection was the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and that was through Allah's divine will. right? And so I want you to have that, because I see that a lot too, where it's not really the question that, and then when there is a question, you know, sometimes you're just trying to figure out, and there are some things that we are limited knowledge that we will not understand. Look, when I grew up, one of the reasons we wrote the book War Within the Hearts, the Struggle of the Muslim Youth, is because when I grew up playing playing ball and traveling, I'm like, why can't I do this? You know, back then there were a lot of elders really not like, it's haram. Why is it haram? Just haram. I'm like, there's more to that, right? So when I wanted to know why I couldn't date, why, you know, music limitation, all these specific things, I wanted to know, right? And it's something that's okay. And then that's why, and then when you start reading, you start realizing, man, well, that makes sense. And then you start realizing how society, if you don't have these rules and regulations, how it could be detrimental and it could affect things, right? Even this idea of like food limitations, of how you're supposed to eat, how you're supposed to cook it, plays a big part. I mean, this COVID, if it is from this animal, then you realize if you just follow the limitation of Allah says, hey, what kind of animals you can eat, which ones you cannot eat, and if you do eat, how you're supposed to eat it, how you're supposed to cook. All these things are like, there's hikmah and stuff like you might not ever realize, right? And subhanAllah, as you go through, you start realizing why you can't do this, why you're not supposed to eat like a dead animal if you see on the street. There's things that Allah knows that we don't know, right? And I think as you just start opening your mind, that's why Allah just wants to ponder. All prophets, they just question stuff, right? Ibrahim, Musa, all of them were by themselves reflecting on, is this really God? Who's God? The sun, the moon? So nothing wrong with it at all, right? But then getting the right sources and so on and so forth, and the right people, as Brother Dawood said, is so huge. And then reading the Quran, the book, it's the guidance for all of us. And I think sometimes we don't. We just kind of listen to it in Arabic, which is, you have to and you should read it, but take some time to kind of go through it or look at some of these great speakers that we've like Brother Dawood named 4 or 5 of them, which are solid individuals from Qalam to where you can just have a 5-minute tafsir, and it opens your hearts and starts making you understand how vast this deen is in answering things about life. And because you're always going to have some crazy knuckleheads, extremists, and try to justify. But Allah even tells us there are going to be people like that who are nuts, right? So Allah protect us all, inshallah.
Inshallah. Okay. From there, we'll move on to the next question/topic. Another taboo and rarely discussed topic involves the integration of both guys and girls at college. How should we go about forming relationships with people of the opposite sex, as the process today is essentially inevitable and unavoidable? So, Brother Habeeb, we'll start with you.
Oh, man. The toughest challenge for all of us in high school and college. Right. Hey, you know, like, I want you to first realize our faith is okay that you have likings for someone. I want you to get that very clear. It is okay to be like, mashallah, right? Like, right? It's okay, right? Right? But Allah has parameters, right? So it is completely nothing wrong, man. Like, I have feelings for, oh my God, just haram. You don't get no sin for liking someone. Is that the action, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, look, there are parameters in how that. Can that means, oh my God, can you talk to the younger sister, to the other sister, or to the brother? Yes. Is there some parameters? Yes. Can you speak to them about school? Yes. Can you talk to them about life? Yes. But is it to a point where's everyone's intention and where you're trying to go? And especially in college life, some of you guys, especially by your junior year, you're kind of thinking like, well, you know what, this could be someone, if you guys were high school right now, I'm like, come on, guys, don't tell me at 16 you can't even change your own underwear or clean up your own, can't even wash your own clothes, and you're thinking like, she's the one. You know, I'm like, this is no, this is no Indian movie, all right? This is not Bollywood, right? So I would say that, hey, for sure that, you know, you are at this age, and here's my key, guys, especially for guys. Look, in our culture, if something doesn't go right, like if you're meeting things go, yes, guys, you know, sometimes, you know, it might look bad in the community, but for girls, it could mess up their, you know, reputation because people unnecessarily exaggerate stuff that's not even true. So that's why even for guys, and say, look, when you're serious, you need to be serious. And if I say, if you're serious, you're talking to someone, you're like, man, you know what, this sister's really cool. This brother's really cool. If you think it is, hey, I want to take it next level, you need to tell one of your parents. Then you know if it's the real deal. If you can't tell your parents, then you're like, it's not really like, you know, you might not really be thinking this through, right? And then so sometimes there, and especially at this age, see the part of your frontal lobe which makes decisions, they don't get developed before the age of 25. So some of you guys at 18, 19, impulses, right? And you get that moment like, man, I'm just gonna do it. Okay, man, yeah, hype you up. Come on, let's go. And then say this, oh man, she didn't talk to me, man, I don't like her anyway. She thinks she's all that. And then why I get worried, because we didn't have social media. People sometimes type something about someone because they don't see them and they kind of regret it later. And I want you to realize when you're talking about someone, someone just because they didn't give you the time of the day, you need to be very careful. Because I've seen that so much where you have, individuals call me and like, hey, you know what? Someone said this about me and I can't believe it, blah, blah, blah. I thought I liked him, this and that. And now he's mad and now he's that. Or even like guys, and why Allah has limitations, because I've seen situations where you share photos that you shouldn't have shared. And now that person's kind of sharing with other people because now it's broken up. Please, now you know what Allah says, look, if you do not go, you can't use this society to say, hey, it all works out in the sense of the dating process, right? Average American goes through 5 relationships before they finally get married. So don't tell me that, so Allah has these parameters, right? And that doesn't mean our culture where you can't talk to him and you see him on the first day of marriage, and that's the only day. Allah's have that, and my wives, the young ladies have a choice, guys have a choice, but at the same time, there are parameters in how you are talking, being by yourself. Allah talks about when you're by yourself, Shaitan's there. And we all know when you're chatting, after a while, you're like, oh my God, she thinks she's funny. I'm so that. You go, like, let's just go out. Sometimes you're like, okay, maybe I'm just going to walk together, but we're not going to touch hands. Oh my God, we touched hands. Oh my God, some people said in the community, I'm going to say that we were holding hands, stuff Allah. Okay, we're touching hands, but we're not going to dance. Okay, we're going to dance, but we're not going to touch hands. Whatever. Shaitan just wants us to break us in small steps, right? Shaitan knows we might not do the stuff a lot, maybe something really extreme, but everyone is going to break us down somewhere. And so Allah protect us from it. Again, nothing wrong liking, nothing wrong talking. There is some concerns about limitations, right? So Allah protect all of us, inshallah ta'ala.
Inshallah.
Yeah, I have to agree with all of that. One of the misconceptions that a lot of parents are afraid of is that who's this girl, who's this girl, who's this guy, and you make one mention of it, and the mind immediately goes to, oh my God, zina, oh my God, zina, oh, zina. That's all they're talking about, adultery and fornication, or you guys aren't married, so fornication. So it's not that. There are 100 or 1,000 steps between not knowing someone at all and actually committing fornication. There's a wide range, and a lot of that path down there is perfectly fine. Like Habeeb said, talking to them about stuff is perfectly fine. The primary thing, number one thing we have to have in our minds is, what is our intention? Why are we doing this? When I'm chatting with if I'm have to do this from the guy's perspective. When I'm chatting with a girl in text, why am I doing it? When she responds and I get excited about it, that's telling me something. What's my intention? Why am I doing this? Why am I continuing the conversation? We're not talking about our MSA events anymore. We're talking about something that's going to happen on some social event on Saturday. What's my intention? You constantly have to keep yourselves in check, because once you start down the path of socializing more than actually getting your actual proper social interaction done, whatever it happens to be, you start walking down the path that can end up in a place where you don't want to be. And so you always got to check yourself. Why are you wearing this tight shirt? Do I want to show my body? Why am I wearing this particular scarf today? Why am I wearing this color of lipstick? What is it about myself that I'm trying to portray? Am I just trying to cover my flaws, or am I trying to show something off and attract a certain person when I interact with them? Really examine yourself. You really have to know yourself and understand why you're doing things when you're in the social context. There's, like Habeeb said, you're gonna get attracted to the opposite gender. You're gonna be attracted to girls. It doesn't even matter if you get married. You are still going to be attracted to girls if you're a guy, and same thing for the girls. And it never ends. The marriage is simply a promise that you're not going to do certain things. You're only going to do certain things with one particular individual. But you're still going to interact with the opposite gender for the rest of your life. What you're going through right now in college, it's your training ground for the rest of your life. And yeah, you're going to make mistakes. Yeah, you're going to learn from them. And you're gonna develop that interaction that you should have, and learn what you shouldn't do. Um, and just make sure that you're watching out for yourself. You know, you really want to do that. And if you have doubts, your parents are usually a good place to go. You know, they're the ones that have looked after you for a very long time. Maybe some of you guys were like I was, and I could not wait for the time where I could leave the house because I was just fed up with my parents and just like being on the college campus. I freed myself of my parents. But you know what? They're still trying to look out for me. And you know, when it really came down to it, I had to go back to them and ask them. I'm in this situation. What should I do? And they're the ones that can guide me. And a lot of your parents are just waiting for you to come back and ask those really key questions about life and about the opposite gender and the relationships that you might want to have, or the relationships that you have had that haven't gone quite right. And they're a great resource for you. And inshallah, they will be the ones that can really help you through it.
Um, Brother Habib, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah,
Okay, so Brother Habib, you touched on the double standard between boys and girls. Could you expand on that a bit more?
So not due to faith, but due to culture, right? So I want to get that very right. There are no doubt about it. You know, I'm one of those that try to be very plain simple about stuff, right? So, hey, having the opportunity, being part of MINA and stuff, where we go to various communities. So it's that same challenge where, especially in college life, I really I have two daughters too, right? And it's no doubt about it, right? Because just like any parent, you want to make sure you want them to experience life, but at the same time you always worry because everyone's intentions, right? Intentions is so huge, what Brother Dawood just brings up, because that affects individuals, right? And the double standards is that also, look, in the way, if something does not go right or something goes wrong, sometimes the depends on the gender, it could affect your life a little bit more than ever. Like I admit, like guys sometimes get a bigger pass about, oh, that's just a boy, oh, that's how he is, to any girl, even just talking to someone like, like, who did he talk to? She's talking to so-and-so. So these things happen, right? People make up these things from Southeast Asian community, all communities. I think I have that. So I think that's something that we have to. But this is something so important that I always say to my sisters and to brothers, like, really learn about our faith and how it's balanced about making sure that you have a right for when you get married, that you don't have to change your last name. Hey, when you get married, your money is your money. Like my wife reminds me, like, hey, my money is my money, your money is my money. I got you, girl, right? So, right, and so these kind of kind of things just to keep in mind. I think that's very important, that you're understanding your rights and stuff. But it is something that's there. But I think as more and more people are educated, especially growing up here, you start realizing, now there are some things that maybe sometimes in culture, there's no doubt about, there's some benefits in it, right? Some things of kind of making sure of the limitations and so on and so forth, of sometimes, having programming and saying, hey, you know what? Yeah, let's have a program of boys and girls together, but let's have the women on one side or boys on the other side. There is some wisdom in it from our faith part too, right? And it's not like, oh my God, just cultural. But the idea of like, hey, it has to be behind a barrier, then that's where there are things you could say, hey, look, that's a culture aspect. So I think those sometimes kind of getting there are having, you see more and more, have sisters in leadership position. Like even when I was a president, like our vice president was a sister, and then the MSA. So you'll see that individuals, I think, more and more kind of developing. But what I want to make sure is that, especially the guys, that we don't have that same mentality, because I've sometimes in that college level, when things don't go your right way, especially when it comes to relationships, that you don't start putting someone down and telling your buddies about. Back then, it might have been a conversation with someone, but now because of this thing, it's like a post, and people forward like, did you know what she said about someone? And it really can affect someone's future life and stuff. So this is like the other thing is that, I've seen people like they're engaged. Engagement does not mean you're married. And now, I know this generation's got this, like, we're everywhere, we're engaged. Then if someone, and I've seen engagements break off and everyone's like, so what else did they do maybe? Right. And so that's why Allah has these parameters, even if you're, hey, my parents have talked, but still keeping limitations, because if you're always around, hanging out, doing this and that, holding hands, and people are like, well, they're not even married, still it's a sin. And second of all, if things don't go right, it's devastating for the sisters, right? And I understand that that should be there. And I'm not saying that, hey, there should be, hey, guys, a sin is a sin on both sides, right? You know, my dad, when for swimming, you know, it wasn't like, I didn't go to swimming in high school because my dad's like, hey, doesn't just say girls ain't supposed to swim in front of boys. Boys, you're not supposed to swim in front of girls. Like, you know, he said, both you guys are signed up, right? I see a lot of times guys like, oh, boy, you go swim with the gym swim class. Girls, we'll send you a letter. So a lot of times when people come, I'm like, well, don't you want one for your son? Like, especially if I know they have a son, I'm like, don't you want one for your son too? Because it's the rule is both ways, right? So, you know, it just happens. So I love Protect Us. I didn't know if I was supposed to go more in detail about the standards, but I thought maybe it was talking about that when some things happen. So I was kind of focusing on that way.
Right, that's good. Brother Dawood, do you have anything to add to that?
Just kind of reaffirming what he said. You know, there's a big patriarchal element in everything that we do. It's not limited even to Islam, and you know, there's cultures all over the world that do this, and you know, just remaining cognizant of that, and separating. You know, what one thing that Islam teaches is that men and women are equal in the eyes of God, and God treats us equitably. But we are not equal to each other. We are different from each other. And we have to recognize those differences and honor those differences between men and women.
Right. Okay.
And it just something just kind of brought up because when I go to a lot of non-Muslim places, I've even had this with like teachers, and they're like, yeah, you know what, but Muslims, you know, they really put down in these Muslim countries women and stuff. And I said, look, there might be some cultural things, but our own country has it in their own ways too. And I always remind them, there are something that this country still hasn't done, where at least 6 Muslim countries have done: Turkey, Indonesia, Bangladesh, Singapore. I forgot the other country where they've had Pakistan have had women prime ministers. So I was like, look, you can say all you want, but then at the same time, you guys have freedom, but you have never let any lady come at that level. So it's just kind of funny that sometimes even with our cultural things, in the long run, there's been a lot more open-mindedness of having lady leaders in Muslim or even third world countries than even America. And everyone's like, whoa, we never thought about it that way. So even sometimes, even as us, we kind of be like, oh my God, we're like, America's like the most, no, they have their own hidden way of kind of showcase, you know, kind of controlling stuff too. So Allah protect us all.
Okay. One final question before we end things off. Somebody asked, how do you overcome letting the stress of everyday life and worldly pursuits distract you from focusing on the next world? It feels really easy to spend hours a day on things that involve your goals in this life and forget about goals for the next life. So basically just dunya versus akhira. Brother Dawood, we'll start with you.
So how do you combat that? Number one thing is your salah. Mm-hmm. There are so many hidden benefits of salah that are not apparent to you until you actually perform them. You know, it's a daily reminder. You know, and it's actually timed throughout the day to give you a very particular benefit, because you're working you know, all morning and then early afternoon, and then you stop and you pray, and then you work a few more hours and then you stop and pray again. And then, you know, an hour later it's sunset and you pray again. And then another hour later it's evening time. It's time to go to bed. It's time to eat dinner, whatever it is. And then you go to sleep. And then first thing you do when you wake up in the morning is you pray again. There's constant reminders for you to take a break and go back to what Allah is and remember Him and have that conversation with Him. You know, He's our prayer is not to benefit Allah. Our prayer is to benefit us. And so we need to seek that out, and that if we do that on a constant daily basis, and we actually make the effort to do it 5 times a day, it helps keep us grounded, and keeps and distractions are always going to be there, but it takes us out, you know, on a very regular basis and back to remembering why we're here.
Brother Habeeb.
As Brother Dawood said, hey, key factors of your salah. But and with that, I want you guys to realize, you know, I kind of talked earlier, and maybe you just kind of hit this point home. You go to school and you don't cheat on the exam, that is ibadah. You go, and when you're talking to your friends and you're not cussing up a storm, or when you're having chat rooms, you're not putting some crazy pictures up, That is also worship. That's part of this deen, right? Allah just wants us to, guess what? If you could just keep your 5 daily prayers, just keep that in mind, right? Okay, then so first, believe in Allah. Second, prayers, right? It's going back to the 5 pillars. Zakat once a year. You know, if you have made it, in your nisab, if you have more than $3,000 in your bank, you give me 2.5%, $35. Fast if you could get this 30-month of Ramadan, and if suppose 20 days you're sick, you can make it up throughout. You have the other time to make it up. And then one time in your Hajj, and the Sahaba came to the Prophet and said, Ya Allah, what is the minimum I could do to get to paradise, right? This 5 pillars. He goes, if I do this and I'm consistent, would you? He goes, and then the Prophet says, if you are, he goes, if you are, I forgot the word, but if you're consistent and you're firm in this, and your promise of doing this, you will get paradise. And you just don't hurt people, don't cuss people out, don't hurt, look, Allah will forgive many sins. Allah says, I will forgive any sins. But the ones that Allah, it's called the ibadah, you and Allah. But the issue is really muamalat, you and dealings with others. That's when all of us going to get jacked up, where people are like, man, you said this about me, this and that. So if you could just go to school, you're, on Friday, you maybe hang out with your friends, but you're not you're not smoking the weed. I know, even though it become legal, I still say it's a gateway, guys. Don't do it. And it still alters your mind, and especially with all this lacing stuff on it. So that's one. You're not drinking alcohol. Hey, you may be talking, but you're not doing anything wrong. Allah's merciful. I don't want you guys like, man, oh my God, I know it looks tough, but if you could just slowly balance that off, and if that means Fajr, you can't wake up, but when you wake up finally at 9 o'clock, just pray Fajr Khada. Just do it. I don't want you to be like, man, I miss it. Hey, I had class, I feel embarrassed. I didn't have that corner place to play, and I came home and prayed Zohar Asr. I don't care. Just do it. Just don't let that go. What Brother Dawood brought up is the most key factors. The first question on the Day of Judgment. Then all these other factors, calling your parents. These are all worship. Not getting mad at your parents, having understanding, coming here and sitting down for 1 hour when you didn't have to do this. It's not like, Sufyan Beg was not going to be like, brother, you didn't come, stuff a lot. What's wrong with you? I'm emailing your parents. No, you did this because, hey, you know what? I want to, in Ramadan, let me just try to maybe, if something that we could take something home from. That one who leaves the house for the sake of knowledge until they come back, Allah is showering blessing. You taking time right now and getting on this when you could have been anything else, you're getting blessings. Allah's just trying to get us into Jannah, right? Eating, just say Bismillah and eat, and you don't eat haram food, you're getting hasanat, right? I just want you to realize Allah is beautiful. Allah just wants us Jannah, right? So we get so caught up like, man, haram this and haram that, because the way we were taught was like, everything's haram. No, everything's halal. A few things are haram. Just change your mindset. Allah just wants to give us Jannah money. Ching ching to bling bling.
Okay. If Brother Dawood has nothing to add, Brother Dawood, do you have anything to add?
I just wanted to come back to what Habeeb said very early in this, in that he mentioned that life is faith.
Mm-hmm.
It's that's really what a lot of this boils down to. Something I had written down here is spirituality is how you see the world.
Mm-hmm.
It's not some kind of holy thing and saying your ohms or being a monk. No, it's how you see the world. And viewing your life as everything that you do is some form of worship. And yet there's ritual stuff, and there's everyday walking around stuff, and how you see it, how you see your place in it. It's you switch your mindset up to adopt something like that, and a lot of life becomes a lot simpler. It's a lot easier.
All right. I think that's all we have time for. We managed to get through basically all the questions that were, or the more of the major ones. So I think this is really good, subhanAllah. Before we all go, I'd like to advertise our fundraiser one more time. Again, UIUC MSA has partnered with ICNA Relief to help raise donations for their hunger prevention program. It'd be really great if even a small amount, any amount will be really good to have for this fundraising event that we're doing. So please try to donate, and thank you guys all for coming out, and thanks especially to the speakers. That was really good.
Thank you, Sophia, and I'm looking forward to seeing you guys in person sometime soon down there in Champaign-Urbana.
Yep. So yeah, hopefully.
Good to see all you guys. Good to see you, Dawood, too.
Yeah, Habeeb, good to see you. Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam.